All right, welcome back. You're still watching Morning Live. Now, reaction to the latest Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International continues. In it, there are world's most and least corrupt countries. The survey noted that South Africa hadn't moved much over the past few years, but it improved slightly. To discuss these figures, we joined in our studios in Johannesburg by Executive Director of Corruption Watch, David Lewis. David, it's a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for coming through.
Hi, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. Now, South Africa ranks 64 out of 176 countries and 45 out of 100.
Yeah.
Should we start celebrating? Is this a significant move?
No. I mean, the move either in the ranking or in the scoring. The ranking, we went down a bit. The scoring, we went up a bit. The move is not statistically significant. It's not bad news. I mean, it would have been worse news if we had outscored declined significantly or our ranking had declined significantly. But I think the correct conclusion is that we're pretty much marking water. We've stayed in the same place. But I would like to
believe that good news is that we're showing stability in a way.
Well, good news is that we're not declining further. I mean, the bad news is that we're still in the rank, in the category of countries that are perceived to have a serious corruption problem. That's generally the cutoff score is 50 there, and we're at 45. So we do have a serious corruption problem, and it's certainly no reason for getting complacent.
Yeah. But then, what were the main incidents, perhaps, that were noted locally last year that could be, attributed to this move?
This survey takes place over a long period, and it's intended to measure not so much the responses to particular incidents as it is the pervasiveness of corruption. But obviously it's influenced by big incidents, and last year we had a real field year. I mean, I think starting at the end of the previous year with the dismissal of Minister Nene, and then, concluding with the state of capture report, it was a real field year for major corruption scandals, and most of them unresolved to this day. I mean, I think that a big feature of last year, and I think this is what has prevented us from sliding further, is the extent of opposition that has been generated to corruption. And, that opposition may have started with civil society organizations, with the media to a significant degree. But if you recall what has happened last year, it has spread to, the very National Executive Committee of the ANC. There are clearly cabinets that is divided over how to respond to it, businesses. So South Africans have indicated last year that they're not accepting this as the new normal. And that's what we need to do in order to make sure we don't slide down further.
All right. But if we were to compare with other BRICS countries, how are we faring? I mean, we've just had an interview that Leanne just had now on nuclear deals in Russia. Yeah,
I mean, it's the one comparison where we look reasonably good. China, India and Brazil are all below us, interestingly, at the same score. But Russia is in another league, all of its own. Russia is ranked at 131, I think it was, with a score of 29. And I think that report that Leanne did is really interesting. And to be perfectly honest, I think to do a procurement of this scale with a country with Russia's record is inviting corruption on a scale that South Africans have not yet experienced. There are plenty of arguments against the nuclear deal altogether, but the arguments against including Russia as one of the suppliers are unimpeachable.
All right. But what should change, David, in terms of, seeing South Africa improve on those rankings?
Well, there are a lot of things that can change. I mean, we could tighten up our procurement procedures. We could tighten up the way in which people are recruited to the public service and employed in the public service. I think that our biggest problem is the really strong and reasonable perception that if you're politically well connected and you are rich, you can pretty much get away with anything.
Yeah, but is corruption more evident on the government sector rather than private sector?
This is a review. This is a survey of public sector corruption alone. I mean, there have been other surveys of perceptions of the private sector, and the public don't trust the private sector a hell of a lot more than they trust the public sector. But this is one where the respondents are asked to assess their view of the public sector.
Yeah, we've also noticed that sub-Saharan countries, they actually fared way better than South Africa, but Botswana once again topping the African countries.
Yes, I mean, I'm always interested in that when you hear South Africans clutching their heads and saying, if we're not careful, we're going to go the way of the rest of Africa. Well, for many countries, going the way of the rest of Africa wouldn't be a bad idea at all. And I think we've came tied with Senegal for 7th place, but Botswana, Namibia, Mauritius, these countries have all done better than us.
David, that's where we're going to leave it for this morning, but thank you so much for sharing the insights with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There you have it. That's David Lewis, is the Executive Director of Corruption Watch, talking to us about the latest corruption perceptions by Transparency International, where the countries are rated in terms of how they're faring in the public sector in terms of corruption as well. Well, we're taking a break. When we come back, we'll give you a 7 o'clock news bulletin.